On the 29th of November, 1970, a father and his two young daughters were hiking through Isdal, the Valley of Death, a rocky ravine on the outskirts of Bergen, Norway. What they found there had no name. A body, badly burned, surrounded by an empty bottle of liquor, a melted plastic bottle that had once held gasoline, and the scattered remnants of a life someone had tried very hard to erase. There was no ID, no wallet, no papers. The labels had been cut from every piece of clothing. It would take investigators weeks to learn she had checked into hotels under at least 8 different names. Months to learn she carried multiple passports, all forged. Years to learn that a coded notebook found in her hotel room has never, to this day, been fully deciphered. More than 50 years later, Norway does not know who she was. They only know what they called her, the Isdal woman. Sometimes, less kindly, Fröken Ingenting, Miss Nobody. Isdalen cuts through the hills above Bergen like a scar, steep, rocky, and largely unused except by hikers looking for a quiet trail. In late November, the valley is nearly empty, which is likely why whoever left the body there chose it. The fire had been deliberate and thorough. Investigators found the body positioned among rocks, surrounded by the remains of at least 2 bottles of a strong local liquor, sleeping pills, and a purse-sized plastic petrol container, half melted into the stone. Whoever she was, she had died face down, one arm raised, a posture forensic pathologists would later describe as consistent with someone still moving when the fire consumed her. The local police at first treated it as a suicide. Norway had methodical, careful investigators, but nothing about the case pointed at first glance to anything except a tragic and lonely death, alone on a hillside by a woman nobody could name. That would not last long. An autopsy was ordered, and almost immediately, the simple tragedy theory collapsed. The woman's fingerprints and teeth had been altered, filed down in places, sometime before her death, in a way that suggested a deliberate, ongoing effort to prevent identification, not a single act of panic. Her body showed traces of a sedative-heavy sleeping pill, along with fuel accelerant residue, consistent with the burned area around her. But it was what happened next that unsettled Bergen's investigators most. When police worked backward from where the body was found, they traced her steps, hotel by hotel, city by city, and found a woman who had spent months moving through Norway, using no fewer than 8 aliases, each with its own forged passport, each passport photo showing the same face with subtly different details. Hair color, expression, sometimes even the shape of her eyebrows altered between shots. She had stayed in Bergen's finest hotels. She spoke several languages fluently. Staff recalled her switching effortlessly between French, German, English, and a fluent, faintly accented Norwegian. She paid for nearly everything in cash. And in her final days, hotel staff and taxi drivers reported the same detail again and again. She seemed afraid, watching doorways, asking to change rooms. Investigators eventually recovered a small locked suitcase from a Bergen train station storage locker, checked in by a woman matching her description shortly before her death. Inside, more forged passports, clothing with every label cut away or removed, a pair of glasses with the lenses popped out as though kept only for disguise, and a notebook written entirely in a code that has never been fully cracked. Handwriting analysts believed the code mixed shorthand with numerical substitution, but Decades of attempts by amateur code breakers, journalists, and eventually digital forensics teams have only partially unraveled it. What they can read describes hotel names, city names, dates. What they cannot read may describe everything else. Norwegian police released the passport photos to the press, hoping someone, somewhere would recognize her. Nobody ever did. Or if they did, they never came forward. As the investigation deepened, a different kind of story began to spread. Not through police reports, but through rumor. Witnesses recalled a woman who avoided speaking on the phone in public, who paid meticulous attention to being followed, who, according to one taxi driver, once asked to be driven in a wide loop through Bergen before finally naming her real destination. Some investigators, quietly and never officially, floated the idea that she may have been involved in intelligence work. The Cold War was very much alive in 1970, and Bergen, with its proximity to NATO exercises and Norwegian military installations, was not an incidental place for a woman with 8 identities to be spending her final months. No government has ever confirmed a connection. No file has ever surfaced naming her as an agent of any kind. But investigators noted she had visited areas near restricted military zones on at least 2 occasions that could not be easily explained by tourism. It is the detail that has kept the case alive in public imagination for more than 50 years. Not proof of espionage, but the shape of a life that looked exactly like it. For decades, the case went cold, filed away, revisited occasionally by journalists, but without the tools to answer its central question. Then, in 2016, a renewed investigation attempted something the original 1970 team could not. Genetic analysis. Isotope testing on the woman's teeth suggested she had spent her early years somewhere in continental Europe, possibly Germany or France, before later years spent unusually, moving between climates, consistent with a life of travel rather than a fixed home. DNA testing, while inconclusive on identity, ruled out a number of long-standing theories and hopeful matches from families across Europe who, over the years, had come forward believing she might be a missing relative. None of it produced a name. What it did produce was a clearer, sadder picture. A woman who had spent years, perhaps her whole adult life, deliberately unmoored from any fixed identity. Whether by choice, by profession, or by necessity, she had made herself unfindable. And in death, that same design succeeded beyond what she likely intended. She's buried in Bergen, under a gravestone that reads only "Unknown Woman." For years, it was a plain marker. Local admirers eventually added a proper headstone so that whoever she was would not lie beneath a blank slab forever. The notebook remains partially uncoded. Her real name remains unknown. And every theory, spy, refugee, con artist, tragic wanderer, remains just that. A theory, unproven, sitting alongside all the others in a file that Norwegian police have never officially closed. What we're left with there is not an answer, but a shape. The outline of a woman who moved through the world for years, leaving almost nothing behind, and who, in the end, made sure of it one final time. Somewhere there may still be a family who never learned what happened to a sister, a daughter, a mother. For 55 years they have had no way of knowing to look here, in a quiet valley outside Bergen, where a woman lay down and made certain that no one, not police, not historians, not the internet decades later, would ever fully find her again. She asked in the end only to be forgotten. She very nearly got her wish. If you enjoyed this investigation into one of history's strangest mysteries, subscribe to Anomalous Myth for more documentaries about unexplained disappearances, ancient secrets, and the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. Until next time, keep questioning the unknown.